Call this back to order. Remind council of any generic conflict of interest. And we have a delegation scheduled for 6:30, so we're going to go right to that. Mr. Bellchamber is here to have a discussion with us about the CAO recruitment process. So we invite you to the delegation table.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you.
Welcome.
Do you wish me to just start?
Yes, please. Talk to us about the process and
right.
where we are. Welcome. Pardon? Nigel Bellchamber.
Thanks again, Your Worship. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and speak to council and address any questions you have about this process. And also like to thank you for selecting my firm to assist you with the CAO recruitment. As was indicated in the presentation or the proposal I made to you, there's several steps to the process. It really begins with an analysis of municipal needs, and that involves interviews with each member of council and each member of senior staff to get a sense of what the critical qualities are in a CAO for your municipality. They vary slightly from municipality to municipality. You will have different degrees of sophistication of administration. You have different degrees of communication with the community. There'll be some strategic challenges some councils face that others don't, and a variety of things like that. It's good to have that sense. One of the reasons for doing that as well is that candidates ask the consultant questions. They ask questions about history, they ask questions about the economy, they ask about the financial situation of the municipality. I mean, some of them can do bits and pieces of that work themselves, but they want to confirm their own judgment. As well, people I approach directly, who I know to be interested in a municipal position such as this, in a location such as this, I need to have some facts at my fingertips in order to help sell the position in the community. So it's important, and I indicated to Ms. Ferguson that if I could start that process as early as this Friday with interviews, I would certainly appreciate that, and that would help us move the process along. Approximately 20 minutes with each member of council and each member of senior staff is usually sufficient to do that, and I can visit both the Forest and Grand Bend and even Northville locations in order to make that work, as long as we can do it in some kind of logical sequence. I would then follow up with a return visit to meet with the selection committee that's been struck by council to describe A, the critical characteristics that you've described to me, and B, also to run through the recommended advertising strategy. Advertising strategy for a position like this is relatively similar from municipality to municipality because the market for a CAO for a municipality like yours is generally in Ontario, although there will be candidates who will be interested from across the country. And we usually get those people through municipal world contacts. Those are the ones they're looking for. Then the next step is the interview. Well, sorry, the next step is really the shortlisting step. What I do is I bring to the selection committee every application that comes forward, and obviously that's dealt with in committee in confidence, because people don't want their current employer, and your best bet is off to someone who's currently employed, to know that they're seeking another position. So it's very important that that be done in confidence. I would also bring a recommended shortlist of up to about a half a dozen, maybe 8 or 9 people. And certainly the committee is free to recommend that some people be moved from that or others be added. But that takes several hours to go through that process of reviewing each of those applications. Following that, establish interviews, and you can expect that the interviews of the first short list, well, if it's a half a dozen people, it takes a day. And from that, there will be 2 or 3 that stand out, and they'll be invited back for a second interview. And you change the nature of the interview at that time, from more of a situational interview to a somewhat more stressful situation type of interview. The question then comes, does the entire council need to see the preferred candidate, or is council willing to take the recommendation of the selection committee? That varies from municipality to municipality. Some are happy to leave it with the selection committee. Others would like to interview the candidate themselves, the preferred candidate themselves. So that means really 3 visits for a candidate. Following that, there would be the more formal reference check and the negotiations with the candidate, which I would recommend that I conduct on your behalf within the parameters that you set, and then try and bring a offer to accept employment before the council, so that the council has the last say, as opposed to the person trying to negotiate with council after council's made its preference known. So it's very much like purchase and sale of land in that regard. The vendor speaks to you rather than you making an offer to the vendor. With all of that, I laid out a schedule. It looks like the earliest start date is approximately the 1st of June. I don't think we can shorten the process at this point. We might have been able to do it had we been able to do some of the interviewing during the Good Roads Conference, had people been there, but there wasn't a critical mass there. It's best, given that the fact that you'd like this person to stay with you between 5 and 10 years, to sacrifice a week early on in the relationship, as opposed to try and jam it in order to get the best candidate for the position. If after the first interview somebody is head and shoulders above everybody else, clearly everybody's first choice, and you can truncate the process, by all means, I'd recommend do that, and the price goes down accordingly, because I don't want to spend the time with you, I can spend it elsewhere. So that's pretty clear. Is it usually that clear? Not always, not likely, but it can happen. So basically, Your Worship, that's the process, and it appears to work.
Okay, questions? Councillor Bonsdale.
Just a couple. Nigel, do you foresee, because of the size of this organization, that we would advertise both internally and externally at the same time?
Absolutely. I think it's important to advertise internally and externally at the same time. If you're in a position where you had a multi-year succession plan in place, and there were 2 or 3 internal candidates who were being groomed for the position, then I would have recommended that you do that step first, quite frankly, if you saw that that was a clear option for you. But my understanding is that isn't the case. So regardless of the number that might be interested internally, I suggest that you go external at the same time. If any of your senior department heads makes an application, I would recommend that they be interviewed, that they be included in the shortlist, quite frankly. Because I think it's an important and valuable tool in succession planning, even if they wouldn't have made the shortlist otherwise. I think it's important that they be included in that. Is that?
Yep.
Councillor Underwood.
Yes, you're talking about going through a shortlisting through the interview, and then you were talking about a second interview of a high stress level for candidate, and you were mentioning whether or not it would be full council or partial. Personally, I think it would be nice if we had like a second interview with a higher stress level, if they were asked to have a presentation of what they consider or what they feel the direction could be or something. It's quite a stressful thing. As you can tell, there'll be people around probably to see what they do. Would you recommend something like that?
I would not recommend that first, second, or final interviews be conducted in public.
Oh, is that right?
That's not fair to the candidate, particularly if the candidate is currently employed.
Ah, right.
So, however, making a presentation to the selection committee, believe me, it's stressful for the candidate to sit there, even if it's a half a dozen people sitting around the table. A presentation can be included if you want to see what kind of skills a person has. We can ask them to do a PowerPoint, we can ask them to do a written.
How they interact with in a different medium, so I'd be interested to see.